Good morning. It's the weekend in between the two eclipses. So we're on the 23rd, and we had one on the 14th and one on the 28th. And I was all set to go outside, all layered up. And I don't know if you can hear the rain in the background, but it's just pummeling, and it's particularly hitting the fireplace chimneys. So there's this pitter patter in the background, and snow this week. So I may be shifting indoors. I apologize for this sort of makeshift site that I'm in. I will set something up when when I have some time to go get my lights and all of that. I was caught a little off guard. So, we're right smack. I think yesterday was smack in the middle between the two eclipses. So we had a solar eclipse on the 14th, and we have a lunar eclipse on the 12th. And they call it or on the 28th. It's sort of that window. It's a portal where really magical things happen. And I was sort of going through my Rumi deck, and I thought this was a really interesting card because it shows how things sort of beam onto the planet from the galaxy, right? And this is the Rumi deck, right? Here we go. That I use. It's always backwards because of the way that I film. And what is happening is it's sort of hitting us like this. Yeah. And so, I was thinking, what do I want to talk about today? And I've been spending the last week with a couple of professional coaches who've been doing leadership and what do I want to say, direction for the future. And I don't know if you've spent a lot of time, if you're in the business field, in leadership, working with models, then the word pivot is going to be a very predominant word that you use. And the pivot's sort of been coming up to the surface a lot more. So today I want to talk about pivot or flow or both, right? Because, we can acknowledge that there are some profound changes going on in our world. And when we start to see them come up in models within the business, we know that they've been around energetically for a while. So this is nothing new to those of us who have been following the energy, yet it means that we need some professional strategic direction for leadership and companies in the direction to go, right? So I kind of like the word pivot, and I looked it up on the dictionary like I usually do. It's a short rod or shaft, which which has a relatable part that rotates or swings around it. So it's a point that has an intersection where something else has a very determined distance that it can spin. It's a mechanism, right? It's a person or thing in which something depends, right? It's central, or it's a crucial factor, like a key player or a major role. So it could be the top-down management that we've been used to. It could be a key manager, that everything goes off of that person. Let's just transfer that into, say, that might be you in your home. That might be you directing your field, right? It's a set of turning. What do I want to say? Turning on or changing, right? So it's when there's a choice. And so I think of basketball all the time. You bring the ball down the court, you set, and you have one foot on the ground, and you're trying to decide which way you're going to go to pass the ball, right? So you're pivoting. And what I like about that is that it supports choices. It means that there's movement, and it means that you can maneuver within. You get to a certain point, and then you recalibrate, you reevaluate, and then you go on. What I noticed when I was playing with the word pivot is that it has its limits, which is it's an anchored spot. Once you're on it, you're there, and you have to work within that spot that you anchored. It's a physical marker. Whether it's a buoy out in the middle of the ocean, whether it's a foot planted on a basketball court, whether it's a strategic plan that once you get here, you make your choices. It's defined, it's trained into us, it's used, right? And what I was wondering is that it's all really good when you're thinking about the external world, when you need markers in the external world, and things are bumping around, and you need something to hold on to, right? You need something to sort of go, oh man, things are bumpy right now. Things are all over the place. And so you can look at some of the robes, like when this energy comes in, everything starts fraying out into the sides, right? And becoming really overwhelming as to who am I, what am I going to do? And then when you try to find a pivot point in there, what is it? You know, in some ways it's this portal, this shadow, and in other ways, where's the actual marker, right, for the pivot? And so pivoting is something that I associate with mental and air, or physical and earth. You know, you can align certain things, you can find the stars, you know where they are, you go after the star, you go after the sun, you use the sun and the moon as markers for you. On the physical earth, you can use buildings, you can use homes, you can use a lot of things that are very physical and help you, but they are planted. They are determined, and we go there and then we hold on. Whereas flow is more emotional. It's more based on water. It's fire. And if you've ever tried to measure, like, where's that flame going to go? Or you talk to forest firefighters, and they'll anticipate that it's going to go this way, but wind and dryness and a bunch of things will, or even just the sap content within the trees exploding. There are so many unknowns within fire, right? So what's happening is that flow is unpredictable and pivoting is a marker spot. Does that make sense? So what we're doing is we're learning how to adapt. We're learning how to respond. We're learning how to shift from what I'm going to say is the strategy. I'm going to get to a certain point, reevaluate, and turn and turn and turn until I can decide. Or I have to trust that when I get to that certain point, I know what's going on. And who am I? What am I going to do in this state of trust? It's a completely different place because we can create with and adapt and notice what kind of freedoms we have when we're in flow, as opposed to the strategies. All we've been able to come up with is this, or this, or this, unless something flows in and changes it all, right? So damn, it's that idea that we have to trust again. We have to trust ourselves. We have to trust our intelligences. We have to trust our intuition, our clairs, the information that comes in that's channeled or downloaded or uploaded. You have to trust yourself and your ability to choose, move with, and navigate around. And when you're going, oh my gosh, I have to trust myself on this fully, right? So what I'm wondering is if these flares, these energies, these constant light, right, that's hitting us, or I think this one's the best one. I like this one. These constant rays of light that are hitting us, they're light codes, and they're bringing you to the surface. They're bringing your heart. I like the idea that her hand's on her heart. And they're bringing all of us to the surface to start interacting in a new, authentic, very messy way. Let's be really clear. This is not something that's easy when everything that we've known strategically, the little boxes we keep are all being sort of swirled around, right? In a lot of different ways. So we're in a state of chaos, right? Absolute chaos. And we're awakening to new feelings and thoughts and desires. And those around us are doing the same, whether we're in a spouse partnership, whether it's our children, whether it's our family, whether it's our friends, whether it's our job. We're holding on to what we know, and at the same time, we're watching things rattling it around and loosening it up. And we're at a period of profound change. And so we're looking at pivoting, or we're looking at flow, or both. Pivot, allow the flow to come in, and then move. So I have 5 tips for you today. And before I go into the tips, what I've been putting out on my social media is that I'm doing individual sessions to sort of go like, well, this is where I'm getting stuck, or this is what's coming up, and I want to unpack it and look at it and spread it out and put it into a system that I can integrate. And we can do that in one session. So if single sessions are something that might be interesting to you to sort of explore who you are, what you want, what you need, by all means, message me or contact me down at my website at denisdryden.com, and it's all down in the description below this video. Okay, so let's go on to tips. Tip number 1. We are cracking open. We are, coming out of a profoundly tight, conditioned roles and approaches to life that we are experiencing as overwhelm. it's like so much is coming in. What do I do with that? There is one card in here that I didn't find because I wasn't sure I wanted to use it. And now that I'm talking about overwhelm, it's like the best card, but I can't find it right now. So what's happening is, take your fist. Let's just do, take that exercise where you hold your fist really, really tight for a bit of time, and do this on your own, and maybe set the timer for 1 to 2 minutes and just keep clenching that fist, right? And let it tighten up. And then what happens is when you start to open it, it's like, oh, my fingers don't want to work the way that they've worked before. They're tingly, they're tight. It takes me a little bit of time to get the use of my hand back. And so what we're doing is we're overwhelmed with all of the things that are causing these shards of unusual pain, perspectives, everything. And it's changing everything. So number one is that acknowledge we're opening up. We're cracking open something. It's like a chrysalis or an egg. We're hatching, we're birthing. Use whatever analogy works for you, right? But realize that you're in that state of change. So give yourself a break. That's the first tip. Give yourself a break. You're going to be, you need to be softer and gentler, and you're going to be sore, and you're going to be agitated, and you're going to be overwhelmed. So just give yourself a break. This is what's going on right now. This is what's going on with everybody, right? Number 2, I think it's really easy to go find the marker and hold on to the marker, sort of as an object, as a safety. And I was thinking about that, and I was going to go outside and go down to Whitefish Lake, where there's this little floating dock out in the middle of the water, right? Which is, hey, if I can just learn how to swim out to that, if I can just get to that and hold on, then I'm safe. And, there's, whether it's a new swimmer or a child, it's like, I don't think I'll ever make it to that dock, or I don't know how to do that, or what happens if. And then you get to that dock, right? So it's a person, a place, a thing that you can begin with and go, okay, so this is familiar. This is my stability center. This is okay for a little while, right? So it's okay. Give yourself permission to find a marker, to find something that you can hold on to. And number 3, know that then the next step is to loosen your grip on it, right? So think again at the dock. It took forever to figure out how to swim out to it and get used to it. And then now what's happening is you're like, well, it's kind of fun out here. The water's deep. You float on your back. You do some dives off the side. You practice your flips. You go way down under the water. You get very, very far away from the dock, because now you're secure. You trust yourself. You know that you can swim in that deep water. You know that you're okay. So when we loosen our grip of that safe place, we start to explore and play with and create and stretch in new ways. So it's finding something that creates security for a little while, and then flowing, allowing flow to come in, which is where the intuition, where your messages. When I sit down to write this, I start with a blank piece of paper. I might have some notes throughout the week of things that have caught my eye. But then I just close my eyes and I go, what do we want to talk about today? And whatever comes up, I go with it. And I've trained my body that whatever comes up is what we're going to talk about. And when we talk about it, I don't know where it's going to go sometimes, right? Number 4, allow discovery to take place. Really, like, what if I let go a bit and shorten up my work week? What if I pull the kids out of school 1 day a week? What if I have a deep, honest conversation with myself or with my partner or with my children about what's working, what's not working, and find out, yeah, I just do it because I don't, because there aren't any other choices, or I'm afraid of what those other choices might be, or I really don't want to do this anymore, but I just didn't know how to tell you. We want to give ourselves some discovery space for those real truth answers to come through, because that's when change happens. That's when the profound wisdom starts to go forward, which is, I think I want to do something else. I think I need something else. I think my kids need something else. And we're not, the word that comes up is adhesion. We don't have this adhesion to, like, I got to work, or I got to go to school, or this is exactly what needs to happen. And so because we're in discovery and because we're trying to experience this and because the world is in chaos and floating around, it makes sense that number 5, as always, is going to be to have compassion because we're releasing anchors and structures. And man, it is hard because every part of our life is loosening up, and some things are harder to loosen than others, and it's going to bring up doubts, it's going to bring up fears, it's going to bring up joys, it's going to bring up everything, and all of us are in this together. So be gentle, be compassionate, um, play, discover, and get out and work with this because um, we have more of this coming. So just know this, right? We're going to do more in November about what the planets are going to ask us to do in 2024 and sort of normalize what that's going to look like. So for right now, prepare for a lunar eclipse on Saturday the 28th on the full moon. And I will see you the following day on Sunday. We'll see how that was. Take care. Bye-bye.